to Homecast. Hi everyone, welcome to the Homecast. Today I actually bring a guest in here, so really thankful that she was really busy, having lots of work to do, but still she was still happy to volunteering herself and text me for doing an open call. So a big thank you to Marija. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hello, I'm Marija or Marija, depending on who's asking, because it's I roll my R's because my first language is Lithuanian, not English. But yeah, Marija, nice to meet you.
Thank you so much, Marija. So yeah, what do you bring your objects to me then? Would you mind to tell me about the object and the story, please?
Yeah, so I have a couple of objects. But they're connected through one central thing. I don't have them with me right now. One of them is just at home and the other one is in Lithuania because I usually avoid bringing precious objects to a different country. So one of them is a Polaroid of me and two other people. It's slightly faded. It's a sunny day. You can see a forest in the background. It's me, another girl whose name is Regina, and a guy whose name is Arturas. And we're holding each other. Regina is in the middle and has her hands on both of our shoulders, and we're smiling. And the other object is a tiny piece of, I think it's granite. It's a triangle piece. You can fit it in your palm. And it's greyish with black bits, and it's a bit sparkly. For the description, that's that. Yeah.
Amazing. Would you mind to tell me why you bring me that object?
So, first of all, they hold very precious memories. Because I'm a bit of a hoarder in that sense. Because usually, with memories, I always have an object or a sound, a piece of music to connect it to the memory. And I like to keep all the objects. So back at home, I have multiple boxes of just random stuff that if you just looked at it, you wouldn't, it's just a bunch of tickets, little paper pieces, whatever, dried flowers and stuff. But each of those objects have a really, really vivid memory attached to them. As I said, both of the objects are connected by one central thing that it's all circles around. They're from different periods, but they're still related
into your timeline.
Yeah.
That sounds lovely. For lots of people, me as well, I quite like sort of things that you can keep it in your hands and sort of really textury or something you can able to sensory feel it and touch it, and when you're holding it, you're sort of oh, that reminds me of stuff.
Yeah.
Where do you find that objects? Do you just bought it, or do you someone gave it to you?
So with the piece of granite, it's actually a really long, elaborate story, but basically, that sounds bad, but I brought it from a building that was about to get torn down.
Oh my God.
And me and a group of people trespassed in it. And there was just a bunch of pieces of scattered broken floor, and we each got a little piece of the floor to remember that evening.
Oh,
yeah, so it's slightly illegal because we snuck into a building zone, but it looks like a lot of people have been there, and one of the people knew the way in. So yeah, we just went exploring. There's more of a story behind it. I might tell it later. But yeah, it's just a piece of floor from a building.
Well, it's still a really memorable stuff, because it's sort of, we try to avoid the illegal things, but it's a good memory, and with your really close friend, which is amazing. How old are you?
I'm 21, yeah. For a second I forgot how old I was. I'm 21, yeah.
So is it like you got it when you're 21, or it was been a while ago when you have that object?
I got it last summer, so summer of 2022.
Could be like 20?
Yeah, I was 20 at that time, yeah.
I see. I love that though. It's such a lovely memory to, get like a little things and then just give it as like, oh, do you remember like something that we did when we were 20? It's like really like young age and sort of like no fear of like anything sometimes, being a troublemaker.
Yeah, especially because as a child, well, I wouldn't call my parents strict, but they wouldn't allow me to do a lot of stuff that my peers did. So I was just like, I had like a very chill teenage years, not doing anything too interesting or like rebellious. And then after I started uni, I started like venturing out and like doing stuff that young people usually do. So it's going to be like, I always view it through a lens of, oh, I'm going to tell this to my kids, or like I'm going to reminisce on it in the future. And it's like, oh, this memory is worth like telling my kids about, because it's like formative to who I am.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, because like I think my parents is quite strict, like in a good way, of course, but like I think because like when you're little, there's so much like sort of boundaries or sort of things that like it like limit to you what you really want to do, and when you're sort of like, oh yeah, I'm an adult now, I'm going to develop myself a bit more and see who I am a bit more in different stage. So yeah, you bring another object as well. Would you mind to tell me the other object as well, sort of like why they related to the memory? Are they like the same person to?
I think I should do an intro of what relates them. But before that, so the other object is a Polaroid, and it was taken in the summer of 2021. Okay. So I was 19. It's 3 people, me and 2 other people. And it's right at the end of a very intense 2-week period in all of our lives. And that period was a summer camp called Gaia, which is a really foundational part of my development, I think. So with Gaia, I go way back. I went to that summer camp as a kid when I was 14. And then after, in 2021, 2021, I decided to finally go there as a camp counsellor.
Oh, wow.
A volunteer camp counsellor, but I've decided, like, I made the decision to be a counsellor way before I even could be a counsellor. I think it was the 3rd time I went to the summer camp where I was like, yeah, I really want to be a counsellor here. And the summer camp itself really shaped my personality. I don't think I would be who I am without it, because it like majorly changed the trajectory of how I acted. And so the summer camp at Gaia. So the photo is right before we left the summer camp, after the whole period of like preparing for the camp, going to the camp 2 days early to like prepare it for the kids, having the kids come to the camp, and then after like debriefing after the children left. And we took 3 Polaroids, so each of us have one of them. And it was literally in the background, a bus driver was yelling at us, so we need to go right now, let's go, go, go. And we're like, no, I need to remember this. We're so tired, but we're so happy, and we're going to take 3 Polaroids, and each of us going to get one, because I really wanted to do that from like the start of the camp. And the little piece of granite, it's a bit of a stretch, but... So my first time volunteering as a counsellor was when the Polaroid was taken. And then next summer, I came back to the camp again to be a counsellor for the 2nd time. And the people that I went on that little adventure that like landed me with that piece of granite was also the team of counsellors from that summer. So you see now the connection between like, both of these objects came to be because of the summer camp. Yeah. And both were with the team of the summer camp, yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your objects and the story. So for like the counseling, like sort of, are you doing like volunteering as in like a hobby, or like do you want to develop it more like in the future that like want to go back to the summer camp just to helping more like teenagers or like some little children's? How old are they around age?
So the children in the summer camp are usually from 9 to 17, but there's like sometimes younger, sometimes older than the usual age. So we get 8-year-olds, we get 18-year-olds. I was one of those 18-year-olds because you can't be a counsellor if you haven't graduated school yet. And I started school a bit later as a kid, so I was still in school and 18 and 19. I graduated when I was 19. So, I couldn't volunteer yet, but I was also over the age of like the kids that are allowed to go, but I was still allowed to go. Granted, it was a bit of a stretch because for the last 2 years, I think, of the camp, I was like half a counsellor because I was an older kid. I've been there before, and the counsellors would like designate jobs for the older kids to like draw them into like the role of the counsellor. So I felt like half a counsellor already. I forgot what I was talking about. Yeah.
Oh, you were sort of talking about like where you want to become like a counselor.
So I'm not really sure. I mean, it's a very big part of me, and I can't imagine a summer without it. Both as a kid and as a counsellor now. So really, like, I can see myself volunteering there for at least, I don't know, 5 more years, for however long I feel like I'm going to have a fun time there. And also there's like multiple positions among the counsellors, because you can be just a volunteer counsellor, which works with the kids, or you could be an admin, which is like a higher up person who organises the whole thing. And like they have different roles, which one of them is the camp artist, which I'm quite I want to go for that position, but I don't feel like I'm old enough, or I haven't had enough experience with just counselling, being a counsellor yet, and I don't want to like jump the gun on that. So yeah, I'm still going to be just a counsellor, and maybe a bit later, because the admins seem to be slightly older people, and it's like, oh, you feel a bit too old to be a camp counsellor. So you go up to the admin level.
Ah, I see. It's quite interesting though, because like for me, it doesn't really matter about the age. It's about like what you've been seeing, what you've been experiencing. But I can definitely tell that, like, I mean, based on your organizations with like other students that like I've been seeing before, I can definitely tell that you can achieve that goal. And I'm so excited to see in the future, and would like to know about the news, really. Yeah, I mean, like, really, like, your objects, like, is so interesting. Like, both are really about, like, timeline, about, like, the change. I feel like because you did definitely, like, mention about how, you know, when you go to the summer camp, it changed you a lot. And definitely, like you said, you really want to go to counseling. That make you feel like you can't imagine if you can't, like, you know, being there, or like, so I can definitely feel that the change and the thing that like make you feel who you are.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. There are quite a few questions we'd like to ask you. So what the most important things you have learned in your life? What was your life like before learning it? What was your life like after you learning it?
So yet again, I can connect it to Gaia again. I tried to think about it a little bit, but I couldn't really think of anything extremely foundational. But the first thing that came to mind was the importance of physical touch, or like the fact that I put so much emphasis on physical touch. And you know, at Gaia, it's like just 10 days of being completely isolated from the outside world, because the kids that they give their phones to us and only get them for like an hour every 3 days. So you're literally just like away from the outside world, and the camps are also like in the forest a bit further away from civilization. So it becomes like an echo chamber of just creativity and like meeting people, all sorts of emotions, and it also becomes like an empty slate where some boundaries that are usually not like a bit further away in the outside world can be pushed. So physical touch is one of them. You get so much hugs, so many like just casual touch, supportive touch, which I only learned to appreciate and like found out that I really needed during Gaia. So it would just be like, oh, I appreciate you. Like a fellow counsellor just like walks by, brushes their hand on your shoulder to like show you support. A lot of hugging, a lot of like just small gestures of physical touch and appreciation. And right after you come back from the camp, you realise how much you miss it, or like how little physical touch you actually have in life. At least I do. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, that's just really sweet. I mean, I was trying to pronounce it right. It's called, the summer camp called Gaia?
At Gaia.
Gaia. It's like, what is the meaning from it? Because
yeah, so actually I'm going to look back to my notes because I don't think I can remember what I wrote about it. But so Adgaya is like it's a made-up word. It's not like, I can't really directly translate it, but I think it's derived from words like adgite, adsegaute, adgaiva, adgaivinte, adgaute yagas, which all of them basically mean around just a general meaning of all those words is to be replenished, to be revived, to get back to your strength, to be renewed and refreshed and well rested. So it's like, oh, you're born again, you're like revived, you feel fresh, you have a clear mind. So about like revival, and it's like a weird combination of those words.
Well, I mean, that's amazing. I would like to go that summer camp. I mean, I'm going to be 22. Can I able to join the summer camp if I want to?
I mean, you can be a counsellor. We don't usually have English speaking counsellors, although most of the kids understand English quite well. But it's all in Lithuanian, so it would be confusing for the foreign counsellor to follow the process. But
I mean, I would love to just visit and join when it sounds so beautiful. Wow. I mean, like, I think it's definitely like nowadays as well. I think since 2019, like COVID period time, it was difficult for like having physical touch as well.
Yeah, definitely. We had to like adjust ourselves with the physical touch, even because the kids were changed by the pandemic so much. Because I started my first time being the counsellor was right after COVID. So literally we had to like test everyone and like go through a process of like making sure no one brings COVID into the isolated little community that we have. And before that, because there's a couple of days before the kids come back and also the preparation right before the camp starts, we go through a lot of like training and troubleshooting and planning. So we had like a whole exercise about like physical touch and asking consent and like accepting it if the kid does not want to do it, or like just like a mutual understanding of, okay, it's been a hard couple of years. We're not used to physical touch as much as we used to be. Oh, is it okay if I hug you? If they say no, okay. By the end of the camp, they might come up to you and ask for a hug. And that's also development. That's also like very nice to hear, because that happened to me a couple of times. So like setting boundaries and making the space feel safe for the kids as well.
Well, I mean, like, through like those conversations that I have, I think like it's like a piece of love in like way that like when I hear it, it's like something that are maybe it's like little things, but it's something that like are priceless based on, you know, human connections. Because I feel like COVID or even like before in the past, I always love physical touch. Actually love hugging all the time, love cuddles, and you know, it's sort of like a love language for me basically.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
And I think like that summer camp actually made me feel that so inspired. Like, you know, people actually nowadays using phone 24-hour all the time,
Yeah.
addicted with like, you know, for example, different social media and actually like non-stop.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's really weird to say, but like back home, some people that I know, even like they're having a meal and then they're like actually sit like next to each other, like with their parents or like brother, sister,
Yeah.
with their sibling. They're still using their phone and text each other, which is something I find it really ridiculous because back home, my home, we don't do that. It's rude, basically. But some people, based on like, you know, the environment, the culture, or even like, you know, just like their family background, I think like they're kind of addictive of it. And I think sometimes like, you know,
definitely.
when you like get away with something and you can like realize the tiny little things like something that like you always like walk past by maybe, or something that like is always around you, but because of you too focus on one things, then you miss out something basically.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I think like that is such a really good practice, maybe just for not just for everyone, but like maybe myself or maybe like other people, like maybe the listener now to hear it. It's a good practice to like maybe, you know, not using your phone for one day, or even like time to time, like 10 minutes or maybe 30 minutes away the phone, and close your eye, listen.
Yeah,
the
definitely.
environment.
Yeah, it's part of it. And also that allows the kids to like develop different relationships. Because if you don't have your phone, you're going to have to talk to the other kids around you or like do something, play something. And also the program of the summer camp. One fun thing about the summer camp that's like different from other camps that I've heard about. The program is literally created while the camp is happening. So it's quite harsh on the counsellors because every night after a whole day of like doing activities with the children, you come back to like the headquarters of the counsellors and plan the next day, which by the end of the summer camp, everybody's really exhausted because we don't have a lot of sleep, we don't have a lot of rest, but that allows the camp to be so flexible and like adjust to the kids because we can change everything completely. If the program was planned like before the camp even started, that wouldn't allow us to fluctuate with the children, which makes it really personal to the kids as well, because even like their wishes are echoed in the program. Literally, that's what happens every time. So they feel more included, they feel heard. That's
good to know, because I really interested of like educations and developing like childhood educations in the past. And yeah, I mean like that is such a really good idea, like, you know, being flexible and being, you know, having so much like different possibility based on, you know, different people echo, because, you know, we're like different people in like different way, different cultures and stuff. And it's nice to be actually just being neutral and just like actually learn from each other and actually start from conversation and being, you know, flexible. That's a really good way to being an education way and sort of developing to each other, I guess, because like, I don't know, I think like nowadays, for example, education is somehow like, for me, not like in UK, but maybe in back from home, Hong Kong, I find it quite limited because like they're never outside the boxes. It's always so structured, or like there's just only one way to do it. So like any educations, for example, like, you know, like for gender, or for example, like, you know, like sex or whatever educations, it was quite limited and they didn't really like tell you quite directly, or even like give you quite like actual information, let's say. And I think it's kind of sad because that is like a helpful information to protect and also just to, you know, respect, really. So I think like as an open education will be maybe like a bright side for the future, or maybe even something that just really helpful for each other, or even just to learn and realize it.
Well, I mean, there's still space to grow in that sense with the camp, because even though it's very like free and very intuitive with the children, we still have topics that, for example, I know more about because I'm in England, that's more open, like sex and gender and stuff. It's still like kept in the shadows in the summer camp, which it's changing slowly, but I feel like there's space to develop in there as well.
I mean, it's a good sign. I mean, like, you can't be like drum up like, oh yeah, this is definitely open. But I mean, like, tiny little step is always like good things to start with, and it's a good change because like somehow I think maybe let's say about change, that word, it is a big word because change, it can be scary.
Yeah, definitely.
And it can be like not good or good. Like somehow like if you don't even try it, you never know what is good for the people or right for the person, because there's always two sides, isn't it?
Yeah.
So thank you so much. So there's another question I would like to ask. What make you feel inspired or like your best of yourself?
So yet again, I'm coming back to Edgar. So I'm going to talk about what motivated me to become a counsellor in the first place, other than the free creative space that the summer camp provides.
Yes, please.
So, I mean, I don't consider myself, well, how do I put it? I don't particularly like working with children. I mean, yeah, it's fun and it's developing, but I wouldn't choose to be like a primary school teacher or anything. But the fact that the children look up to you and like the little sparkle they get in their eyes when they see you doing something that they feel inspired by, it's an addictive feeling. I can't explain it. It's just from the position of the counsellor or like an older kid even, it felt so good seeing that like a little child is looking up to you and wants to be like you and feels inspired by you, or like what you're doing pushes them just a tiny bit to be more creative, be more confident, do something that you are doing right now. And the power that you have to change someone's life in such a short time, or like with the smallest things you do, oh my God, that's so powerful, that's so inspiring. So it's just and when even you hear it from the children, because in the summer camp there's like a system of like mail where kids write letters to each other every day, or like at the end of each day there's like a reflection circle we call a family circle, because the whole system around in the summer camp is every group, because the kids are like put into different groups just so it's easier to like work with them. Each group is called the family, and each family has 3 counsellors looking after them. So it's usually 1 dad and 2 mums, because it's 3 counsellors, but there can be different versions of that. For example, one year I had 3 mums. I haven't heard of 2 dads and 1 mum, because there's usually not many men among the counsellors, but so we have family circles. So there's always constant need for like reflection and honesty. And so there's been instances where a kid comes up and says, oh my God, you are the best mum I've had throughout my whole time in the camp. I want to be like you. I want to be a counsellor because of you. I love what you did. I also want to study art, and seeing you made me more sure of myself. Like, I want to do that, and what you did reassured me. So it's just, oh my God, I can't. It's just the revelation and the happiness in their eyes is priceless.
I mean, even though like the audience can't see Maria at the moment, but I can definitely describe like Maria's eyes have sparkling too. I mean, I can definitely feel the joy from it, and it's something that like it's definitely priceless because I mean, even like I'd never see those kids, but I can definitely see like how they've been like feel love and inspired from you guys because it's not like just they got the benefit from it, but also you guys been learn from them being like inspired and being more like built up for your confidence, for example, and which is amazing. It's like you learning from each other and also sort of like reflection yourself, telling yourself that am I doing the right things? Am I like,
Oh yeah, when you see a child looking up to you, definitely feel like, oh, I'm doing the right thing. I'm being a good example. I'm inspiring someone who's just started their journey, and I had people like me inspire me in the past when I first started going to the summer camp, and look at me now. I'm a counsellor, and also these connections are legit. They stay because I'm still talking to some of the counsellors I had 4 or 5 years ago. And like one of them, she knows she's the reason I'm here, and she's like, oh, tell me all about it. I know you were a counsellor for the first time like a year ago. Tell me all about it. And it's like even the connections among the counsellors, like the whole community, because it's a big summer camp. There's three campsites. Each campsite has at least four camps going on throughout the summer.
Wow.
And like the children, each camp has from over 100 to like 60 children.
Wow, that's a lot.
And it happens every summer, and you can just sense the person that's like, as a kid, I would be able to tell that the kid, like other kids have been to the camp just by looking at them on like the way they act. And it like builds a community outside of the summer camps even. And I've made lifelong friends. I met one of my best friends in the camp for the first time. It was my first time. It was her first time. And from then on, we went to the summer camp together. And after, we're still talking. And she lives in a different part of the country, so we would like visit each other a couple of times a year. But the connection is still so strong and still there. Just the way the children take the camp away from the campsite and into the real world, and like still uphold the values that they got during the camp.
Wow. I mean, that sounds so beautiful. I would like to join. I mean, absolutely, that is like gorgeous. Thank you so much for sharing about your experience, about this story. I mean, like my brain at the moment can definitely have so much like imagination through like your timeline when you're little, through the time how you meet your friends, and then knowing the people, like connection with like different people over the place, and learning, absorbing, reflecting each other, and then sort of being so thankful for what you got. And that is really beautiful. Also, just last but not least, I would like to ask you if something that you would like to tell the audience about, if you wish like you can learn maybe earlier in your life, what will be? Maybe, or something like advice to the audience, or maybe to anyone that will listen that Homecast?
Oh, that's a hard question. I didn't think about that one.
Don't worry, take your time.
I guess letting yourself do what you want, that's very vague, but I'm trying to find an example of how it worked out in my life. Well, I guess I'm going to take my style as an example. So you can't really see me, but I'm usually very colourful and like out there, maximalist, artsy outfits. And I feel the most like myself when I'm wearing bright colours, interesting pieces of clothing, weird, graphic, colourful, glittery makeup. And before that, like I wanted to do that, but I was just not allowing myself to do that. And I was like, what good did that do me? I was just restricting myself for no particular reason. Because at the end of it, I was like, maybe I was afraid of what other people thought about it. But who cares what other people think about it? It's more for yourself. Like, it gives me so much joy. And dopamine dressing, or whatever it's called, like serotonin dressing, is when you feel down and you dress up and you feel a bit better. That's literally one of my like coping mechanisms. If I don't feel good that day, I was like, oh, I'm going to put on an outfit I particularly like, and it brightens up the whole day. So just like following what you want to do, because people are going to see you and forget about you. As long as you feel like yourself and you feel good in your skin while doing something or like changing something about your appearance, do it, please, because life is short and you're gonna regret not doing it earlier. Literally, I regret not going that route earlier, because I feel way more myself, because I look back at like old photos of me of just like just a regular outfit, and I was like, but like the colourful, interesting outfits reflect my personality, and like that also upholds the honesty that I try to take with me all the time, because I want people to see me and know who I am. So that also like expresses who I truly am, and like gives people a preview of who I am. Yeah,
That's amazing. I mean, like, yeah, being yourself is so important. And again, life is really short, and it's just, do what you want.
and it comes back to inspiring people again.
Exactly.
Just I can do it. You can also do it, because I'm doing it.
I think like that's amazing. I mean, like, honestly, I think like when I was slightly a bit younger, like around teenagers, I was like asking myself, if I'm wearing that outfit, is that alright? It's not look weird, but like honestly, like now I'm actually like, yeah, I don't mind. I would love to wear what I want to.
Yeah.
And I think because as well, like you mentioned, like life is too short. I was actually like facing like life and death last year, because like my doctor was always say that like, oh my God, I think you might have cancer.
Oh.
And during the time when I was thinking about it, I was like, I might have cancer, but like, and I'm good now, but like, it's made me question a lot of myself, like, oh, if I actually like having cancer and, I just got like maybe 2 months or even a week, what I really want to do.
Yeah.
What I feel regret to, go for it and actually do a bit more. It might be like, maybe everyone like listener, it can be in different stage now, but like, actually life is quite short. You never know what's going to be happen. So, just enjoy who you are. And, even like, you've been struggle and figure out who you are.
Yeah.
Still like, don't regret. And, sometimes mistake is good. Happy accident is good.
Yeah.
And just enjoy it and go for it. Thank you so much, Marija, for being my lovely guest. And honestly, I'm so thankful, like, you signed for my open call and being my volunteer is such amazing. Like, I love your story, love the objects. Thank you so much, Marija.
Well, thank you for having me. It's my first podcast and I was really excited. I loved it. Thank you.
It's my honor. Thank you so much.